Welcome everybody to today's presentation, Building a Modern Skin Health Practice with Device-Based Therapy. Dr. Imahiyerobo-Ip graduated cum laude from Harvard University with a bachelor's degree in health policy. She then traveled to the United Kingdom to pursue a master's degree at Cambridge University. At Cambridge, Dr. Ip studied international development, graduating with highest honors. After receiving her medical degree from Cornell University's Weill Medical College, she completed specialized training in dermatology at Dartmouth Hitchcock Medical Center, where she served as chief resident in her final year. Dr. Ip is a medical journalist and media expert. She has been an expert contributor to numerous magazines, including O Magazine, Marie Claire, Dr. Oz, The Good Life, In Shape, and Cosmopolitan. She also appeared on national television, including The Wendy Williams Show. So with that, Dr. Ip, I will let you take it away.
Thank you so much for having me today. So today we're going to talk about, as Sean mentioned, I graduated from my residency in 2013. And when I studied laser science in residency, I learned about chromophores that lasers modulate, which is namely melanin, hemoglobin, and water. I also learned that these lasers operate at different wavelengths in the ultraviolet, visible, and infrared spectrum. And I was trained to believe that you needed several different lasers to address several different types of skin issues. So when I got my first job out of residency, we would rent a pulse dye laser, an alexandrite laser, a fractionated laser, and an IPL. And every time we did that, we had to coordinate a laser day and keep in mind all the different treatment parameters and safety parameters for each laser. During my clinical consults with patients, my patient would share what was bothering them about their skin. And of course, most patients have multiple concerns like red, splotchiness on their skin and brown spots, or irregular tone and texture. And I would try to develop a plan for them that would usually involve multiple different laser treatments. But what I noticed over my first couple of years of practice is that my patients were often dissatisfied with the results, especially for rosacea. I felt that I would promise them improvement in about 3 treatments with the pulse dye laser, and a lot of patients felt that they weren't seeing the improvement that they wanted. Furthermore, a lot of patients can't actually afford 6 laser treatments. So during this time, I started to feel a little bit jaded with lasers, and I felt that they overpromised and underdelivered. In addition, it seemed like in order to have a comprehensive laser practice, you needed to have multiple lasers. And I felt like it would be hard to be profitable doing this as a solo physician. So as a result of this, in the last 3 years at my first practice, I completely moved away from laser therapy. I think that this slide really highlights some of the challenges that I was discussing in developing a comprehensive laser practice as a solo practitioner. If you want to offer comprehensive rejuvenation with energy-based devices, it seems that you would need at least 4 devices in your practice. You would need a device to address red and vascular concerns, a laser to address pigmentary concerns, another to address skin rejuvenation and collagen stimulation, and yet another to address hair removal. What complicates this further is that skin phototype has to be taken into consideration as well. All too often, my patients with skin of color would come to me saying that they'd been told that lasers were not safe for their skin. And I would always respond that certain lasers might not be safe, and that it was important that they find a practice that has lasers that can treat diverse skin types. So this slide shows the top 11 concerns that we might be able to address with an energy-based device. And with these 18 devices, there are at least 50 different combinations of treatments to comprehensively address the 11 conditions. This is really confusing, it's complex, and it's overwhelming. More importantly, it's expensive, with the average cost of a laser being at least $100,000. Furthermore, you have to worry about expensive warranties and repairs and the space to fit all of these different devices. In 2018, I started thinking about opening my private practice. And at this time, I took another look into technology with a similar set of concerns about lasers being overall too expensive and not delivering the results that I needed them to for my patients. It wasn't until a friend of mine introduced me to the Neo Elite that I started to consider that maybe things had changed and that technology had advanced in the last few years. As a person with a limited budget, I was really intrigued by the thought of a single device that could deliver results on so many different indications and be safe in all skin types. So this slide kind of summarizes what the Neo Elite claimed that it was able to do. I was told by my rep that the Neo Elite offered a 1064 nanometer wavelength with a 650 microsecond technology that would allow it to penetrate deeply into the skin, interact and address those three chromophores we mentioned before, and be high powered, safe, and comfortable in all skin types. It really sounded too good to be true. I definitely approached my investigation of the Neo Elite with my guard up. I was thinking that reps would say anything to sell a device, and I thought that it was really impossible for one device to offer all of those treatments safely. So, my goal in opening a small practice was to be able to offer as many services as possible for the top conditions that I knew my patients would be seeking. Most doctors use laser to address reds and browns like veins, hyperpigmentation, photo damage, and the like. But I was really enticed by some of the medical indications that the Neo offered, like psoriasis and inflammatory skin diseases. I also thought to myself, I'll just buy one laser. And if I have one laser, I'm going to learn that laser front to back. And I'm going to try to use that device to treat as many of these common conditions as possible and to offer the best results for my patients. So this slide summarizes how the marriage of the 1064 wavelength and the 650 microsecond technology allows us to penetrate deeply into the skin, interact and address the three chromophores, and offer high-powered, safe treatments in a comfortable way. So first, the 650 microsecond laser energy is pulsed over the skin, targeting water to stimulate collagen production. Next, focused treatments of the 650 microsecond laser energy address veins by coagulating the cell walls, hyperpigmentation by clearing up excessive pigment, and redness by suppressing the capillary network. And gradually, collagen builds up to smooth fine lines and tighten skin. The more that I researched the Neo, the more that I realized that the reps were not just telling me things that I wanted to hear. In addition, I found that there were a number of clinical studies that prove that the technology works for an array of conditions, including 42 peer-reviewed articles. So finally, I decided to take a leap of faith and to see if the Neo could meet my needs, and it definitely has. So now I want to talk a little bit more about how I use the Neo to treat one of the most common concerns that we see in dermatology, which is acne. So let's start by looking at what's traditionally done in the medical clinic. Here's a common approach to addressing a patient in the office. So I'm a patient and I walk in with a common condition like acne, sit in the waiting room and I wait for my turn. Then I go see the doctor who diagnoses my acne and prescribes me a medication. Because the doctor is a specialist, I trust their opinion. I schedule my follow-up a few months down the road, and then I wait to receive confirmation that my prescription has gone to the pharmacy. Finally, the doctor's biller will file a claim and submit it to my insurance. So this is a relatively comfortable way of doing medicine, and this is how it's been done for years and for generations. But there's some drawbacks to this. First, once I leave your office, the physician really has no control over my treatment success. I have to trust as a physician that my patients will pick up their medicine and follow the directions correctly and then follow up with me. And another concern that I'm seeing increasingly in today's market is that patients don't want to wait for their medications to work. Patients want more rapid results and they want an approach that feels more customized to their needs. So let's look at an alternative model. So as an alternative, you can tweak and modernize your approach to the exact same patient. So again, I come in for acne, but instead of immediately prescribing me a medication for my acne, you and I discuss my goals, my expectations, and then create a treatment plan specifically for me which can be one of a number of services, including light-based technology, products, or prescriptions. What this shows me as a patient is an advanced and modern solution to my skin issue. I personally feel more invested in the agreed upon plan, and I feel more confident that we're going to achieve my goals. Plus, you as the doctor have now opened yourself up to a treatment solution that will drive better per treatment fees without sacrificing safety, efficacy, or tolerability. To put things in perspective, 18 million prescriptions are written for dermatology conditions annually, 12 million of which are for acne. 12 million for acne alone. So consider the number of prescriptions you write each day. Now let's double or even triple the average reimbursement fee for that 15 to 20-minute office visit. Consider instead if you have an alternative therapy, which would allow you to earn $200 to $300 minimum more per prescription. You're already opening yourself up to a massive ability to maximize your per treatment fees. But a lot of professionals, myself included, are sometimes scared to ask for money. Think about this odd dichotomy between the physician's office and the pharmacy. So at the physician's office, reimbursements have been declining steadily over the years. Meanwhile, at pharmacies, prescription prices have risen. Despite the increase in the prices for prescriptions, patients continue to purchase medications for their skin condition. The problem with this is that they aren't paying their doctor. And the vast majority of patients want you to provide them with an in-office solution for their skin condition that they came to you to take care of. So this is not to say that prescriptions are troublesome. Obviously, they provide sophisticated solutions for the most common skin conditions, and they provide relief to millions of patients, and we as doctors depend on them. It's just to say that it's not that simple, and consumers like simple. They love anything that makes their life easier. So as a physician, you ultimately like to drive results and succeed in helping your patients. And it's frustrating that problems with prescriptions can actually cause you to relinquish your control over the success to the patient. So out of 100 prescriptions written, typically only 15 to 20% of the treatment course is completed as required. And if you're able to monitor your patients more closely and keep them returning to the office more frequently, you're able to control the patient journey to achieve better outcomes and better revenue. As dermatologists, I really think now more than ever before, it's our responsibility to focus on being the best. We need to be the top of everything that's cutting edge and to get our patients the results that they demand. It's what makes my practice unique, and it's what makes patients come to my practice. I think that one of the reasons why patients come to me is because I'm offering modalities that get results no matter the issue. And increasingly, we as dermatologists are held to a higher standard. You can't just offer run-of-the-mill, outdated therapies anymore. It's imperative that we stay ahead of the curve. We're currently living in a very impatient world. We don't like to wait. Waiting more than a few minutes for a ride is now unheard of. And if I have to wait more than 2 days for shipping, I'm going to purchase somewhere else. And patients certainly no longer want to wait 3 months for treatment results. Patients often don't want to wait for the time that it will take for the medicines to work. They want results right now. Otherwise, they quickly move on to the next office that does offer them more quick results. One of the biggest factors driving change in medicine is patient experience. And one of the factors driving and enabling change in the patient experience is technology and patient access to technology. So Alexa makes our life simple, Siri makes mundane tasks more easy to do, and medicine is considered an advanced industry, and technology is now expected to be a part of the enhancement of the patient experience. As it stands, 50% of patients want technology to treat their medical conditions. And the reason that 70% of healthcare executives see patient experience as their first priority is because they know that they'll have at least 50% higher returns with a superior patient experience. When I opened my practice, I decided to build an experience based on two important principles. The first is that I wanted my practice to be colorblind. What I mean by that is that I wanted treatments that were accessible to all, regardless of skin type and skin color. And the second thing that I based my practice on was bringing back old school medicine. And I often tell my patients that one of my most memorable patient experiences was being with my pediatrician. I remember that my pediatrician's office was in a house. It was in a big house and it didn't feel scary. It felt like a home. So what old school medicine looks like for me is this. I intentionally want to see fewer patients. I intentionally want to take more time with each patient. I want to take a consultative approach to address the whole patient, which means looking at their full aesthetic and medical needs. And I spend about 20 minutes with each patient to give us enough time to address the whole patient. I brand my practice as a one-stop shop for everything for your skin, hair, and nails. And laser technology is a major component of my ability to be clinically and financially successful. You know, traditionally, dermatology has had a bad rep. You come into the office, you wait, you're seen, you're sliced and diced, and at the end of the visit, you leave having no idea what happened to you. These are the patient concerns and the views of medicine that I'm trying to assuage by creating a different look and feel for my patients. And I often tell my patients that while I don't know how long it's going to take to cure their skin issue, I'm confident that I'm going to get their skin clear. And I feel that I can be confident in saying that because I have the right laser and the right products and the right services to do so. So the revenue potential for utilizing technology for reimbursable indications can double your typical office visit fee. With less patient visits, this provides you with a unique opportunity for additional revenue generation and a better patient outcome and a better patient experience. This is not to say that I solely rely on laser as the solution for my medical dermatology patients. It's just one of the tools that I've been able to use to position myself and attract a different clientele. I still take insurance, I still rely on prescriptions and medical therapies. But many of the times, my patients will come in asking about lasers specifically because they've heard that I'm the doctor that uses lasers for acne. And they want to try that because they've tried everything else and they feel that those things have failed. So now let's look at technology as a growth driver. As a result of the NEO, I've been able to offer a comprehensive laser practice with just one laser. Although I chose to keep my prices reasonably low, I was able to pay off my laser in about 6 months. And the Neo Elite laser technology allows you to achieve these kinds of goals. This slide summarizes the conditions I currently treat with my Neo Elite: melasma, benign lesions, rosacea, spider veins, hemangiomas, acne, psoriasis, warts, skin rejuvenation, unwanted hair, and pseudofolliculitis barbae. Another thing I love about this device is that it does not hurt and there's no downtime. And I'm able to combine it with other modalities visit with no downtime. So as a bonus, because it doesn't disrupt the skin barrier, I'm able to combine this with other treatments in the same session, including other energy-based devices. And therefore, I'm able to use it as an add-on for many other treatments that I offer. And as a result of this, I've really been able to increase revenue in my practice while offering superior results, and my patients have been very, very happy. In the end, a device like the Neo Elite doesn't change everything about how we practice medicine, but it helps me to be more efficient and better at what I do. So when you look at your practice, look at how you're currently treating diseases. Are there better solutions to address them clinically while increasing profitability? You also need to stay ahead of the treatment curve for different diseases and offer advanced care by adding services to provide significant results. I think that physicians need to offer patients advanced technology with better mechanisms of action and higher return on investment. It's not enough to extend into aesthetic services, particularly in our global pandemic when we know that cosmetics is heavily influenced by the economy. It's also important to capitalize on the core medical treatment offerings included with the NEO, including acne, melasma, psoriasis, and other inflammatory conditions that can benefit your business and your patient experience. Additionally, some of these treatments can be covered by insurance. One of the things that I've always found ironic for me as a dermatologist with a lot of experience with lasers is that often I haven't been able to use those lasers to treat myself because I'm a person of color. I can't treat myself with the alexandrite. The long pulse Nd:YAG is excruciatingly painful for hair removal, so much so that I'd rather shave. And plus, I wouldn't dare try to use a laser on my face for photo rejuvenation. So over the years, I've learned all of these devices, and yet I wasn't able to use them on myself. But now I have been able to do that with the Neo Elite. Part of my branding for my practice is that I'm a colorblind practice, and my practice is 50-50 in terms of minority versus non-minority patients. It's really important to recognize that the Neo allows doctors to treat skin of color safely. Treating these skin types with laser is not something that I think most people want to develop in their practices. But if you have patients with skin of color, it's important to offer comprehensive treatments that will address their needs and concerns safely and effectively. So regardless of race or ethnicity, I've been able to comfortably treat and have options for treating all skin types. It's understandable for physicians who treat skin of color to be concerned about risk of complication in addressing melasma or acne or post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation. Physicians and our patients have been educated that these risks outweigh the benefits of laser treatment. But now with the Neo, that's really an outdated way of thinking. And it's something that Aerolase's technology has really pioneered for us in this field of dermatology and in medicine. So this slide just summarizes the things that we've talked about this evening. I think it's really important to look at laser technology as an extension of the care that we offer our patients. I think that it provides us an opportunity to raise our own standards of care and to give better outcomes to our patients. I think that it's important to try to distinguish yourself in your practice. And for me, I've been able to do that by bringing back the old school medicine feel that I discussed earlier. And I view technology in my practice as a growth driver. And it's really helped me to increase my profitability and to increase my patient satisfaction. And one of the things that I've learned from having the Neo is that a device-based technology can be a first-line option, and that patients are really looking for these types of options in developing a treatment plan.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Ip. Very, very compelling story. And we always appreciate people, kind of opening up and telling the audience and their peers about their personal, success and thoughts and concerns, or just overall knowledge about the industry in general. Something that we all absolutely love. So I wanted to open up for some questions here. One of the things that you talked about was getting jaded with lasers, and now I think the ability for you to treat the rosacea and not get the patient results is interesting. But was there anything else that kind of went through your mind?
I mean, I think I started to get disappointed in laser technology because it's expensive. Even renting lasers is expensive. And when you feel like you have to have multiple lasers to treat common skin conditions, it feels like you have to make, a $500,000 investment if you want to have a comprehensive laser practice. And for most doctors, particularly those who are trying to start a solo practice, that's not, a reasonable expectation. Another concern that I have often had for myself, maybe because I'm a big baby and a little bit of a wimp, is that laser treatments are often painful. And so if you have someone who is getting good results, but sometimes the pain can cause them not to come back because they just feel like it's too uncomfortable. So one of the things that I was drawn to for the Neo is that one, it allowed me to do a lot of different things with one laser. And two, I really love being able to tell my patients they're not going to have any pain and no downtime. And that causes patients to, consistently rebook their procedures. They're excited for it. They feel like they're in the spa and they're relaxing during their treatment.
All right, thank you for that. So now you're practicing outside of Boston. What sort of patient population do you have around that area?
So I've been practicing in Massachusetts for the last 7 years. And when I practiced at other people's practices, my patient population was predominantly Caucasian. And I, had lasers in the practice that would treat Caucasian skin. Since I've opened my own practice just outside of Boston, what I realize is that there's a huge demand and a huge need for people who understand skin of color. And I hear it every day that I have patients who had a bad experience with other dermatologists that they felt didn't understand their skin or hair. Then they were looking for a dermatologist that understood their skin. And I say skin of color really broadly, not to just mean Black patients. I have patients who are of Asian and Middle Eastern descent, patients who are biracial, just across the diaspora and across the hues, who just felt like often in other practices, they didn't understand how to use technology to treat their skin concerns, particularly something as mundane as laser hair removal.
So now, one of the questions we always get is, how do you get patients to pay out of pocket for either medical or aesthetic treatments? Some people are concerned that their clientele, doesn't make enough money, or they have to be in a high-end area for it to be, something successful. How do you deal with either selling to patients or attracting patients? What does that conversation look like for you?
I was extremely concerned about this. My practice is in a middle class neighborhood. And more importantly, I just wanted to be able to feel like all people, regardless of their socioeconomic status, could have access to the treatments that I was offering. My approach to the patient is really to hear their concerns, and then I present all their options to them. I talk about medicine. I talk about oral options, whether they're topical or oral options. And I talk about technology. And I'm also forward thinking. So I'll say, okay, once we fix your acne, the next thing we're going to want to talk about is that hyperpigmentation or that acne scarring. And so I kind of give them a bird's eye view of the journey that I'm going to take them on. And when I offer it like that, I think my patients feel that I'm being really authentic in my desire to help them. And I let them pick what they want to do. And often that's how we end up making that purchase and that sale. Often I'm surprised by how quick patients are like, I want to do laser. And then there's the patient who wants to do a medical route. And then I honor that and I treat them as best as I can with medicine. And sometimes I'll say, no, but you really need help from technology. And at that point, I think that because we've developed that relationship and they see that I'm trying to get them the best results with medication, then they're also now willing to, trust me when I say that they need technology. So overall, it's actually been a lot easier for me to use technology and to offer technology in my practice than I thought. I also think that there's a subset of parents and patients who are not wanting to treat acne with oral medications in particular. And so I offer the Neo as kind of an Accutane or isotretinoin alternative. And there's a subset of doctors that refer to me for that particular reason, that they know that this is a doctor who can address really severe acne without necessarily requiring that the patient use isotretinoin.
Yeah, I think that's pretty interesting. With that subset of patients and parents, we're in that movement of all natural these days, which has been going on for a while now. And is that an increasing factor into their thought process? Is that something new, or do you think that's been going on for a while now?
I trained in New Hampshire, and everyone would talk to me about goat's milk soap and various salves that they created. And so, that was 12 years ago. So I think that there's always been a subset of people and patients who prefer a more natural option. For me in my life, I tend to look for more clean technology for the skincare that I use. And so in my practice, most of the skincare offering that I have is on the cleaner side, fewer chemicals, fewer preservatives. And the treatments I offer, I try to also brand in a more kind of clean or natural based way. I think that if you're just dismissing people's concerns in that regard, you're going to lose a patient, or you might have an angry patient. And so I just try to meet people where they are and offer them options for where they are.
And I think that's fair. I mean, that kind of goes down with your consultative approach and kind of understanding what the patient actually wants, needs, and what their true feelings are. We get a lot of comments about, certain areas being, or, certain offices being factories, and just doing volume upon volume upon volume just to get the patients through there. I think it's definitely a viable business method, but at the same time, I think that, the way that you're doing medicine these days is kind of like where we all want as a population to get back to, and that we appreciate. But I do think that there's going to be an education for the public to get, to understand that this is where medicine's actually going. If you have a patient that comes into you that's new, are they surprised that you have this approach? What do they say about your practice?
I think overall, patients appreciate that I take the time to hear their concerns and to make sure that they understand their plan. I think that one thing that happens when you do drive-through medicine is that when you leave the office, people don't really know what the plan was. And a lot of times I have people who've seen other dermatologists and been giving medicines, and I might agree with the medicines that they've been given, but without, a comprehensive overview of the side effects and how to manage those side effects, the patient gets poor outcomes and gets disappointed. I will say that it's challenging. My approach has become very popular. And so now I feel like I have, more demand than supply as far as my time. And so as I get busier and my practice matures, the challenge is how do I still make sure that each person feels like they're getting that one-on-one care and that individual attention. A lot of that has to do with the help that I hire and how we train our staff to support us. Like I said, my patients all leave with a handout that says what their plan is, what their skincare plan is, what their medicines are, how to use them. So we try to just pay attention to the details, and I think that that's what makes a difference. So as far as my practice volume is concerned, I would say 50% of it has been word of mouth. And, oh, you saw my sister, you saw my friend, you saw this person, they said you were the best, and that I had to come to you. So I think that taking the time to pay attention to those details has definitely benefited me as far as growth is concerned.
Well, I think the only thing to do with that is to educate and mentor more more of your peers, I think. But no, that's fun. In terms of, you touched a little bit about combination therapies. Is there anything that you specifically like, or is there anything that you are specifically doing that you think is a little bit forward looking and that patients really kind of gravitate
to? I mean, I definitely think that I've become known as the acne doc. And I think that a lot of people have acne, a lot of people are frustrated with it. I hear the story, I've tried everything, everything's failed. And just being able to offer them laser. I have other things that I use, other light-based devices, blue light, certain facial treatments to all work together to get them where they need to be, chemical peels. So I think that I definitely stand out in that regard. And then I think, which was very surprising to me, having worked in Massachusetts and up until opening my own practice, predominantly cared for Caucasian patients, just to realize the need for people who understand skin of color and hair loss and skin of color. And so I have also developed a niche in that area as well. I see kids, I see adults. I mean, the idea for me is to be the GP for your skin. And I think that that has really worked for me because, patients don't like to say, oh, you took great care of me. Can you see my daughter? No, I don't see kids, So it's worked for me to just kind of take care of everyone. And I think patients really know that with each case, I'm trying to do the best that I can to make sure that they get the results that they need.
Okay. And with skin of color, it's obviously, it's been a hot topic in skincare and dermatology in the past 2 years. And the one thing that we see is there definitely is a better education and focus on it. And I think that goes in two different directions. One is education for the actual healthcare specialists. And then there's also the education for the patient population. How would you see that unfolding? Because as far as I see it, there's just not enough out there to say that, hey, we have new options, we have these new abilities. What would you do, or what would you like to see done?
I think that this problem starts at the very beginning with issues of medicine and diversity in medicine overall. I think that if you don't have a diverse workforce, it makes us less aware of our own implicit biases and our own ignorance, for lack of a better word, in treating patients. I just think that a lot of us as doctors and providers are not, as self-aware about what we're bringing to the table as far as bias is concerned. And I will say, I trained at Dartmouth, right, in New Hampshire. So it wasn't by virtue of seeing a lot of skin of color patients that I learned to treat skin of color. I had to learn just like any other doctor who doesn't have a lot of exposure to that. And that requires, making the effort to read, to learn, to discuss with colleagues, to go to conferences. I also think traditionally industry has neglected diverse skin types in terms of studies and in terms of marketing. And now it's kind of the time is up and the expectation has changed for majority and for minority patients that inclusive branding helps you to get more patients overall, helps you to get more clients overall. People are looking for brands and for clients and for doctors who appreciate and value diversity. So I think that the NEO is ahead of its time as far as laser technology is concerned, in terms of developing a device that can be used safely in all skin types, and in terms of trying to have a physician panel that represents the diversity of the skin types that it's able to treat. Ultimately, I think that it's kind of setting the stage for other companies to follow suit. And I think that that's inevitably what will happen, because who wants to spend, $100,000 to $200,000 on a device to only be able to treat one set of people? Every time you go to a lecture about skin and diversity in America, it says by 2050, half of us will be some variant of brown. So I just think that it's important to be forward thinking, open-minded, and cutting edge.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to end out the presentation. You've talked about your open approach and your forward-thinking approach to taking medicine and aesthetics, combining it forward with technology. So I really appreciate that. I think that the audience has really enjoyed this lecture. If there are any questions that we did not get to, we will be happy to answer those offline. But Dr. Ip, thank you very much, very much for your expertise and sharing it with everyone.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.